Khabib Nurmagomedov absolutely humiliated drug addict, alcoholic, sexual predator Conor McGregor after Conor McGregor accused him of scamming his fans by selling an NFT that a lot of people bought based on exactly what it was advertised as.
Even Nurmagomedov just fired back at Conor McGregor's latest accusations with what might be the most savage clapback in the entire history of MMA. In a move nobody saw coming, he invited his bitter rival to a response was something else. A hint we've all been desperately waiting for. This isn't just a rivalry anymore, it's the resurrection and the reckoning. The date is November 27th, 2025. And the combat sports world has been absolutely set ablaze by a firestorm of unbelievable proportions. This wasn't a fire that started in the octagon, where these two legendary warriors once faced off in what is still the highest-grossing pay-per-view event in UFC history. No, this new war ignited in the digital arena of social media, a place where words can slice deeper than any elbow, and accusations can leave scars that never ever heal. It all started when Conor McGregor, the now 37-year-old Irish superstar who once ruled the MMA universe, vanished from X around early October 2025, right after hyping yet another UFC return. His departure was strange. There was no fanfare, no explanation, none of the usual theatrical drama that defined nearly every move of his wild career. One day he was there, launching insults, threatening comebacks that never seemed to happen, and the next, poof, he was gone, vanished like smoke. Naturally, the entire MMA community went into a frenzy of speculation. Some whispered that his mounting legal troubles had finally cornered him, forcing him into silence. Others suggested serious health concerns, both physical and psychological, believing that the heavy toll of years of fighting and controversy had finally become too much to hide.
There is no way good guy Khabib used his late father's name as well as Dagestani culture to scam his fans and fire sell a bunch of digital NFTs online and then delete all of the content after they were sold, leaving his fans robbed of their money. There is no way a good guy do this.
The accusation was as explosive as it was completely detached from reality. What McGregor was painting as some kind of sinister deletion of evidence was, in reality, just standard operating procedure for a product launch. Think about it. Once something is sold out, you take down the sales link. That's it. The original promotional link had simply been removed after the NFTs sold out and was replaced with a thank you message for the fans. In fact, explanation. But here's the thing about the internet. The truth often comes in second place. The damage, if that was McGregor's goal, had already started to spread like wildfire. The anti-Muslim factions within the MMA fanbase, a vocal minority that has clung to this rivalry since Khabib's dominant victory at UFC 229, immediately seized on these baseless accusations with predictable and ugly enthusiasm.
Let's be honest, the main reason there are so many anti-Muslim MMA fans is because Khabib brutalized McGregor back in 2018. The casual incels were devastated watching McGregor have his soul taken that night and simply never recovered.
Now, Khabib Nurmagomedov is not a man who lets insults go unanswered, and he never has been. At 36 years old, holding a flawless 29-0 professional record, and with absolutely nothing left to prove to anyone on this planet, he certainly wasn't about to start now, especially when his family's legacy was being dragged through the mud. His response came back in a flash, and it was delivered with savage precision. He wrote, "You absolute liar. You will always try to darken my name after you got destroyed that night, but you will never achieve that." He even repeated it for emphasis. "To absolute liar, you will always try to darken my name after you got destroyed that night, but you will never achieve that. Yes, good guys, don't do that. This is 100% fact. And that night, well, that night needed no extra explanation." Every single person in the combat sports world knew exactly which night Khabib was talking about. October 6th, UFC 229, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The night that pulled in an incredible 2.4 million pay-per-view buys, the highest in UFC history at the time. The night that ended with Conor McGregor frantically tapping to a neck crank at 3 minutes and 3 seconds of the fourth round. The night that exploded into a full-blown riot when Khabib leaped over the cage to attack McGregor's cornerman, Dylan Dan. The night that cost Khabib a $500,000 fine and a 9-month suspension. The night that seemed to break something deep inside Conor McGregor, something that has clearly never fully healed. Khabib continued, defending his project directly. Good guys don't do that. They don't create exclusive digital gifts with real-time value that you can share with your friends and family. Gifts in the shape of papaka hats that symbolize tradition and culture of Dagestan people. But McGregor, predictably, just doubled down with even more ferocity, calling Khabib a low IQ troglodyte and demanding an apology for robbing fans. He kept bringing up Khabib's deceased father in terms that most people found absolutely disgusting, a nasty pattern that has defined his attacks ever since the build-up to UFC 229, when he did the exact same thing. The irony here is just staggering. McGregor talked about fathers back then too. He made vile jokes about Khabib's family, mocked everything the Dagestani holds sacred, and then he was systematically taken apart and choked out. The psychological trauma of that beatdown has obviously never healed. And here we are, 7 years later, with McGregor still grabbing for the same old weapons that failed him so spectacularly before.
My count is 56 former drug addicts at my rehabilitation center in Dagestan that I treated. Come to Dagestan, act Notorious MMA. They'll take care of you here. Mexico didn't help you as far as I can see.
And right here, on this digital battlefield, Khabib Nurmagomedov's next move showed the world exactly why he didn't just beat Conor McGregor physically, but why he completely dominated him mentally. He possessed a psychological composure that his Irish rival simply could never and will never match. Instead of getting dragged down into a petty online squabble about NFTs and business ethics, which is clearly where McGregor wanted the fight to be, Khabib pivoted with the precision of a surgeon. He changed the subject entirely, aiming his next strike directly at the heart of McGregor's well-documented personal struggles. My count is 56 former drug addicts at my rehabilitation center in Dagestani that I treated, Khabib wrote, referencing the incredible philanthropic work he's been doing since he retired. Then came the kill shot. Come to Dagestani, all the notorious MMA, they'll take care of you here. Mexico didn't help you as far as I can see.
Conor he's kind of an embarrassment to his family. And I do believe Conor has a disease, but I do also believe that Conor is a complete piece of shit. And Khabib should say this. And Khabib did open some drug rehabilitation centers in Dagestan.
The reference was absolutely unmistakable, and twice as brutal for it. You see, McGregor had just spent days publicly documenting his psychedelic therapy journey down in Mexico, framing it as some kind of triumphant spiritual awakening that had healed him. And with one single post, Khabib was suggesting, with his trademark directness, that whatever healing Conor thought he had achieved was nothing more than a complete illusion. He was saying that the fundamental problems that have plagued the Irishman's life are still there, as serious as ever, and that maybe what he really needs isn't more hallucinogenic visions, but actual, serious addiction treatment. The post absolutely exploded, racking up over 11 million views and instantly becoming one of the most engaged with pieces of content in the entire history of their long-running, bitter feud. Fans all across social media reacted with a mix of pure awe at Khabib's ice-cold composure and a kind of dark amusement at the surgical precision with which he had just located and exploited McGregor's deepest vulnerability for the entire world to see.
If you want to go back to some of the crypto incidents that Khabib was related in, I guess you should talk about what Conor did. Because if we're conflating the two things, selling an NFT exactly as advertised, and we're conflating that with a crypto scam, let's not forget. Let's not forget, okay? Because Conor, and we're not going to go through all this, Conor hyped up a crypto coin, and then he rug pulled that crypto coin.
The absolute genius of Khabib's response lies in its powerful subtext. While Conor McGregor was busy online, screaming about scams and exploiting a father's legacy, Khabib was quietly showing the world what he's actually been doing with his post-fighting career. He's been building rehabilitation centers to help recovering addicts. He's been coaching the next generation of Dagestani killers at Eagles MMA. In fact, he's scheduled to be in Islam Makhachev's corner at UFC 311 in January 2026 for his fight against Arman Tsarukyan. His life has purpose. It has moved forward in genuinely productive, meaningful ways. McGregor, by stark contrast, is still fighting battles from 2018 as if the last 7 years just never happened. And McGregor's response only proved how deeply Khabib's psychological warfare had hit its mark. He raged. And who will I be meeting there because it won't be you? You can't scam me with your lies. You tax-dodging scammer on the run. Your poor family, I pray. I pray for your constant lies. I pray, I pray, I pray. While you lie, you should just be honest, because Allah knows all. The invocation of Allah in that response struck so many people as particularly telling. Throughout their entire rivalry, McGregor has repeatedly tried to weaponize Khabib's Muslim faith against him. Now, even in a fight that's supposedly about NFTs, he's reaching for religious provocation as his primary weapon. But what makes his accusations about scamming so outrageously hypocritical is his own documented history with crypto promotions. Back in 2024, McGregor launched his own meme coin called Real, which raised around $92,000 from investors before completely collapsing in value, leaving anyone who trusted him holding worthless digital tokens. The legendary crypto investigator, Zach XBT, even pointed out this exact irony, noting how McGregor conveniently deleted all the posts related to his own failed crypto venture after it imploded.
Khabib took Conor's soul years ago, and the fans have never recovered, and they hate Muslim fighters because of it. And I will continue to call it out. I don't care.
Let's break this down, because the distinction between what Khabib did and what McGregor accused him of doing is absolutely fundamental. Khabib advertised a very specific product, a digital collectible shaped like a traditional Dastani hat, and he delivered exactly that product to every single person who bought it. No one was tricked. A rug pull scam, on the other hand, involves creating a deliberately worthless asset, artificially pumping up its value with celebrity endorsements, and then dumping your own holdings at the peak, leaving regular investors to absorb catastrophic losses. This is precisely what McGregor did with his real coin, and it's precisely what he was now trying to accuse Khabib of doing with a product that operates on completely different principles. The hypocrisy is just staggering to anyone who takes 2 seconds to understand the difference. Khabib created something with genuine cultural meaning and sold it to willing buyers. McGregor hyped a worthless token to his followers and then watched them lose their money. Yet here he was, trying to position himself as some kind of champion for scammed fans. It was Khabib's protege and the current UFC lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, who offered what is probably the most perfect analysis. Khabib broke his mind. He's not going to fight anymore. And when you look at the paths these two men have taken since their collision in 2018, it's impossible to argue with that assessment. Khabib defended his title twice more against absolute killers before retiring undefeated, fulfilling a sacred promise to his mother after his father's death. He then transitioned into coaching and philanthropy, building an empire that will last long after he's gone. McGregor, meanwhile, has lost 3 of his last 4 fights. He broke his leg in that grotesque way against Dustin Poirier, a moment that perfectly symbolized his entire career since that night in 20. He's piled up legal troubles and controversies that follow him everywhere. The contrast couldn't be more painfully obvious. While McGregor spiraled into controversy and decline, Khabib ascended into a respected retirement, building real institutions that do tangible good in the world. People's lives have been saved from addiction because of his work. And yet, McGregor is online, attacking him over the sale of digital hats.
And luckily, Khabib called it out. He acknowledged it, and he embarrassed Conor McGregor for being the low-life piece of that he is. But it's just sad to me. A lot of fans co-sign this. It's sad to me that you got content creators saying, oh, it's definitely a scam.
This entire firestorm, this conflagration in November of 2025, just hangs on one single question. The same question that's been asked a million times since October 6th, 2018. Will Khabib Nurmagomedov ever fight Conor McGregor again inside the octagon? And the answer, based on every single piece of available evidence, remains a resounding, definitive no. Khabib has been crystal clear that the months of grueling preparation needed for a comeback make it almost impossible. His promise to his mother not to fight again is sacred. It's a promise made to a grieving woman that is simply not up for debate. And besides, his work now as a coach and a businessman fulfills him in ways that fighting no longer can. He has absolutely nothing left to prove, least of all to a man he already defeated in the most comprehensive way imaginable. But the talk never stops, because the hatred never stops. And the hatred persists because neither man seems capable of letting the other go. To really get why this rivalry is still so explosive 7 years later, you have to understand the depth of the wounds that were inflicted, leading up to UFC 20. McGregor and his crew ambushing a bus with Khabib inside, smashing windows, injuring other fighters. Then came the promotional tour where McGregor attacked Khabib's religion, his family, his wife, his late father. Khabib's response at the time, "I'll kill you," wasn't for the cameras, it was real. And the fight itself gave Khabib everything he wanted. Round by round, he just dismantled McGregor's entire mystique. What made that defeat so crushing for McGregor wasn't just the physical dominance, it was the total failure of his psychological warfare. It had worked on everyone else. He rattled Jose Aldo into a 13-second knockout. Eddie Alvarez looked completely lost. But Khabib was immune. He absorbed every single insult with a calm, stoic focus, and then he methodically broke McGregor inside that cage. Khabib later called that night his vacation, a moment of pure joy where he got to legally smash his most hated rival. 7 years later, it's clear McGregor is still trying to win a war he already lost. In the years after that fight, their paths could not have been more different. Khabib's journey was kind, while McGregor's was cruel. Khabib went on to defeat Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje in dominant fashion, before retiring a perfect 29-0 after his father's death, keeping a sacred promise to his grieving mother. He then built Eagles MMA into a powerhouse, with his protege Islam Makhachev now holding the very same lightweight title Khabib once possessed. The suggestion that UFC 289 inflicted permanent psychological damage on McGregor isn't new, but hearing Makhachev state it so bluntly, Khabib broke his mind just hits different. If anyone knows what that night did to Conor, it's the man who watched Khabib prepare for it with such intense focus. So as November 27, 2025 came to a close, the scorecard for this latest round of their eternal conflict seemed pretty clear. Khabib came out of it with his reputation stronger than ever, his composure on full display, and his real-world positive impact highlighted. McGregor once again just revealed himself to be a man completely consumed by bitterness over a defeat he can neither accept nor move past, willing to attack a grieving son over his father's legacy and make wild accusations without a shred of evidence. So where does this all leave us? Well, Dana White and the UFC have been strangely silent through this whole exchange. Probably because they realize this particular fire doesn't need any more fuel. The idea of a Khabib-McGregor rematch is still a promoter's dream. It would shatter every record, but the practical hurdles are just too massive. McGregor, for his part, went back to posting prayer and faith emojis, maybe trying to find a spiritual balance that has escaped him ever since that night in 2018. And Khabib, characteristically, just moved on. He started posting clips of the submission from UFC 289 on his Instagram, a silent, brutal message that McGregor is still living rent-free in his head, all while he prepares to corner Makhachev at UFC 3. The official rematch will never happen. But this war of words, this endless cycle of accusations and responses, of deletions and resurrections, in its own twisted way, this is the only rematch either of them will ever get. It's an endless verbal sparring match that neither can truly win because the decisive result was already delivered 7 years ago. At its core, this rivalry became a mythological clash of philosophies. Khabib represented tradition, family, and McGregor represented flash, bravado, and individualism. And perhaps the cruelest irony of all is that Conor McGregor, the master of getting inside his opponent's heads, was the one who was ultimately broken psychologically. 7 years later, McGregor is still trying to win a war he has already lost. And Khabib is still refusing to let him forget it. The eagle has flown, the notorious has fallen, and neither man can ever escape the gravity of what happened between them. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.